Now Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S. May have known things they didn't tell us before September 11th. Fox News correspondent Carl Cameron has details in the first of a four-part series.
Since September 11th, more than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained, either under the new Patriot anti-terrorism law or for immigration violation. A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions when asked about alleged surveillance activities against and in the United States.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questions, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
Very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S.
The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
A handful of active Israeli military.
You guys get paid as a conspiracy because some of the people don't actually spend the time to read the law. That's correct. And you do enough of the facts to realize that it's really hard to make the case that the building just exploded without some sort of an accelerant. So, in the absence of an accelerant, it's a hoax. It doesn't make sense. And the unanswered questions are reason to be skeptical. What the office holders can't do is leap to the conclusions because they're office holders. I mean, there's politics in the office and all that. So, you guys shouldn't be painted as nut jobs because you're raising questions. Yeah. But some of the guys who were in the 9/11 Truth Squad they were saying shit that was so far out there that it undermined the questions.
We were just up there in New York, and we had one of the guys, one of those playing guys, and he's saying disrupted. William Rodriguez, you heard of him, right?
Yeah.
Come in and just, totally interrupt.
Goes on about aliens and reptiles and stuff. Makes it all look like we're out of our minds.
I mean, the guys that I got my four-part Israeli series are serious, non-partisan government people. You know, they went out and whacked people on the other side, the president's Republican and Democrat. You know, I mean, they do their job. And they do shit. There are bad guys in our government. Black ops stuff does happen. I mean, you know, Jack Bauer's a fucking movie, but it's 24 it's a TV show, but it is baked in some stuff. It's not just imagination.
Right.
And it has to be that way. I mean, it just has to be. So, it was just recently revealed that Bush authorized an executive order that essentially would have taken the brown and blue guys, the Blackwell paid contractors overseas, and turned them into hitmen. This is what Bin Laden, okay? Blackwater.
Turned into acting.
But here's the thing. I reported that. At the same time I reported the 9/11 stuff, that the president had signed an executive order that essentially would have permitted the possibility of hit squads. And I put it out there. It went absolutely nowhere. 2 years later, a guy named Cy Hersh from New York wrote a very famous article about, hey, you know what, Bush may have authorized hit squads. It's like, no shit, told you that after the attacks. And everybody's like, whoa, it must be true. Now, what happened was he signed an order that said, worst comes to worst, you walk into a bar and you see Bin Laden there on the corner of the table playing blackjack, and I just ask him that. Yeah. That's what they fucking said. Now, that's a lot different than dude walks into the cafe for a cup of tea in Morocco. Yeah. And he's got a beard and he's 6'3". Yeah. So they zero in a satellite and they say, wow, he looks a lot taller than everybody, and they meet the village. It doesn't happen that way. Right. You know, I mean, I just explained this to me the other day that it's like, how can we keep missing it? You know, right? It's a good question. One of the guys, you guys should be wondering, why the fuck do you keep doing it? Well, there's a reason. We see him in real time, 6 miles up in a satellite. By the time you launch the satellite from the Gulf of Aden, 1,200 miles away, it takes a fucking half an hour to get there. He's long gone. And you kill a village with a kid. So it's not, you know, you understand that. But if you don't explain that to the average person who's just thinking, how can we keep missing him when I can see on TV that we know where he is?
It's called moral hazard. I mean, of course, the reasons on the surface are going to be justifiable and common sense. But at least this gray area for them to exploit.
I mean, in addition to what I reported, we knew in the days after 9/11 that the Russians had warned us. The Russians had warned us of an attack. Yep.
French.
and the British had warned us of hijacked planes. The Israelis and the Germans had warned us of a plane attack on the World Trade Center, all in the preceding 11 months. Now, 99 times out of 100, these warnings come to absolutely nothing. These were like 6 specific, generalized things, and they didn't do shit. Now, I know you guys have done the research. You know that you got the FBI agent down in Arizona who wrote up the whole friggin' warning before it happened. They're learning how to flight. They're going to flight schools in Florida, and they're coming out here, and they're crop dusters and everything else. I mean, it was all there, but we're a big fucking country. We're a whole goddamn hemisphere. You know, I mean, it got lost between the cracks, and whether or not that was a deliberate conspiracy or benign neglect or just rank government incompetence, you know, my feeling is you guys are right to bang the drum because we don't know. And just as a journalist, I talked to George Bush personally after 9/11. I talked to Harry Reid and John Kerry personally after 9/11. All three of them said Saddam was mass destruction.
You personally too?
Yeah. All three of them. Now, unbelievably enough, only 2 people in the entire Congress adamantly said that was not true. Bob Graham, the former Democratic chairman from Florida, the intelligence committee, said there was no evidence. Nancy Pelosi at a dinner one night told me that John Kerry was a fucking liar because he never saw the evidence before. She had looked at it. She was actually one of the ranking Democrats on the intelligence committee. Now, who's to believe Nancy Pelosi from San Francisco? You know, she's a pacifist. But those are the only 2 who said adamantly, I've looked at every page, I've looked at all the information, just not there. And she outed Kerry, who was running for president at the time.
We've actually got a DVD, a buddy of mine made a film called Core of Corruption. It's a 5-part film. We've only released the first part so far. He could write a book on Bob Graham alone, but he's featuring Bob Graham and the dirt that we've got on him. But also with regard to whether or not it's intelligence muck-up and confidence, or whether there might be direct involvement, something that really bothers us is the Able Danger program. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
I mean, there's always the concern that you're going to run into people who are not following through on questions. There are questions that have still yet to be answered. It doesn't make sense that the President of the United States and the Congress of the United States would willfully lie to hurt Americans for the purposes of re-election or economic benefit. That's a bridge too far. I can understand how people uninformed might be able to make that leap, but it undermines a valid pursuit of facts when you go too far to prove a point. It's like when I don't know if you guys have kids or anything, but when you see a little kid throwing fucking tantrum in the grocery store because they want a glass of milk, they're not going to get it. They're going to get locked in the back of the car and slapped.
Well, just like the town hall meetings, like we're always getting grief because they think that we're the ones that are shouting people down with the healthcare needs, but we have nothing to do with those people. We're always the ones coming out patiently trying to, at a low-level volume voice, try to ask them questions about these issues, and you get these morons out there screaming and crying exactly like that, like a child, and we get pushed in that category.
My whole point of view in that whole part of the series was to point out that there are unanswered questions.
Right.
And some of it has been answered, but a lot of it hasn't.
One thing that really scares me about that is that, say this is happened by purpose or something like that, it would solely be blamed our country without anything like that.
Right. I mean, and here's the thing you gotta remember too. Israel has been known as the country that spies on the United States more than any other. Now it's not national security spying, it's mostly economic. They want to know what to do to make money, how things are going. Sure, no, go right ahead.
Well,
I mean, frankly, I've been disengaged to it. I mean, a handful of times that you guys have sort of come and tried to bust me on street corners and stuff like that. Through this, I have not been involved in the national security stuff since like after the beginning of the war in 2002.
Sure. You got a job to do, and they're going to assign you to different things. But my question is, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything like that. If we're willing, we'd love to get you just on record for our website. Would you support an investigation?
No way, I can't. I mean, that's the kind of thing where if I were to do that, I'm not going to get in such a hassle for not having gone through media relations. It's not a question of content.
Yeah.
But every single thing I say has to go through media relations with every single time. I mean, I can't do interviews with that.
Kind of how the mainstream.
I can't do interviews with like mainstream political magazines until it goes through meet mine.
Mainly we saw you. I just want to say thank you.
I'm happy.
You did a good job.
Thanks very much.
I know that
Appreciate
you guys
it.
out there do
Yeah,
try.
and I mean seriously. I mean it's one of those things where you guys help your own cause. And I'm not saying you got to be rude to the people who are on your team, but if they tamp it down a little bit. I got jumped in downtown New York by a bunch of 9/11 truthers, and I talked with them for an hour. It's still out there on the web. And the thing is, if we'd had a quiet conversation, they might have actually gotten something out of me that would have been better than me just telling them I'm not going to talk to them.